Hey guys, so today we will be talking about action potential. So what is action potential? Action potential is a change in electrical potential associated with the passage of an impulse along the membrane of a muscle cell or nerve cell. Basically, nerve cells can only send one signal to the brain, but they can vary the frequency, or the number of pulses, which tells the brain the difference between I need a jacket and I'm getting hypothermia. Okay, so before we jump any further, we need to know what a neuron is. So a neuron is an electrically excitable cells in the nervous system that function to process and transmit information. In vertebrate animals, neurons are the core components of the brain, spinal cord, and peripheral nerves. The primary components of the neuron are the soma cell body, the axon, a long, slender projection that conducts electrical impulses away from the cell body, dendrites, tree-like structures that receive messages from other neurons, and synapses, specialized junctions between neurons. There are several types of neurons, including sensory, motor, and interneurons. So, how do neurons communicate? Most neurons communicate with others by releasing one of over 50 types of neurotransmitter. Each neurotransmitter fits on its receptor on the surface of the neighboring neuron. Chemicals that interfere with the signaling may act on the neurotransmitter or on the receptor. Many of these natural substances, such as nerve poisons produced by plants and animals for self-defense or capturing prey. An actual potential occurs when an electrical signal disrupts the original balance of sodium and potassium within a cell membrane, briefly depolarizing the concentrations of each. There are three stages to action potential: depolarization, repolarization, and refractory phase. Depolarization is caused when positively charged sodium ions rush into a nerve cell. As these positive ions rush in, the membrane of the stimulated cell reverses its polarity so that the outside of the membrane is negative relative to the inside. Repolarization occurs when the channels that let the positive sodium ion, travel channels through close up, while channels that allow positive potassium ions open, resulting in the release of positively charged potassium ions from the neuron. This expulsion acts to restore the localized negative membrane potential of the ion, bringing it back to its normal voltage. Lastly, refractory phase happens when shortly after the sodium gates open, they close and go into an inactive conformation. The sodium gates cannot be opened again until the membrane is repolarized to its original resting potential. The sodium-potassium pump returns sodium ions to an outside and potassium ions to the inside. During the refractory phase, this particular area of the nerve cell membrane cannot be depolarized. Therefore, the neuron cannot reach action potential during its rest period. Synapse is a junction between two nerve cells consisting of a minute gap across which impulses pass by diffusion of a neurotransmitter. Synapses are composed of three main parts: the presynaptic ending that contains neurotransmitters, the synaptic cleft between two nerve cells, the postsynaptic ending that contains receptor sites. An electrical impulse travels on the axon of a neuron and then triggers the release of tiny vesicles containing neurotransmitters. These vesicles will then bind to the membrane of a presynaptic cell, releasing the neurotransmitters into the synapse. These chemical messengers cross the synaptic cleft and connect with receptor sites in the next nerve cell, triggering an electrical impulse known as an action potential. Now that it's all making sense, we have one more thing to cover: myelinated and unmyelinated. A myelinated fiber has myelin stem and use maltatory conjunction. An unmyelinated fiber doesn't have the myelin stem and uses continuous conjunction. Thank you for tuning in.